Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how are you doing tonight?
Great. How are you?
Oh, all right. All right. Not the most thrilling game tonight, but the result was good.
Yeah, it's always. I remember as a young fan of the Oilers, both in the WHA and in the NHL. There was as teams were progressing from terrible to good, the key moment was reaching 500. And tonight, I know other people will beg to differ, but tonight the Oilers reached real 500, and that they now have as many wins as losses in the season, 13 wins and 13 losses. So one of those losses came in, was it a shootout or overtime anyway? But it's still a loss. And so tonight, as I define it, they're finally at real 500, which is significant because in the NHL, if you're at real 500, you're a good bet to make the playoffs. And we're going to talk about that a little later in the podcast. So a 4-1 win for the Oilers, Battle of the Connors, Bedard versus McDavid. Wasn't that close. Of course, Bedard's team probably had about 3 players who could make the Oilers. Not much of a team, but maybe
That Alex
4.
Vlasic looked good.
Did he? Yeah, maybe there's 4 or 5. I don't know. If you really, uh, maybe the goalie could Mrazek might be able to be the backup on the Oilers. He's
Mm-hmm.
having a pretty good year. But Bruce, this is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast, and we'll go with 1 conundrum as well. What's your good thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Edmonton's fourth line contributing another huge goal at a huge time for the second game in a row. Late in the first period, in both cases, last game, it was the goal that put Edmonton ahead on a hard-working play where they won a board battle behind the net, made a quick centering pass, and Derek Ryan buried the shot off of a Sam Gagne pass from the right side of the net. And today's goal was in many ways a carbon copy of that one, with the puck battle behind the left side of the net. And in this case, I'll name Brett Kulak for going in and helping to win that battle along the boards. This time it was Ryan who got the puck and made the quick backhand pass out in front, and Gagne who scooped the quick shot upstairs and under the crossbar. And really, it was the same goal both times: win the board battle, get the puck out in front, get a quick shot on net, boom. And these guys, Derek Ryan and Sam Gagne in particular on that line, have enough skill that they can put the puck in the net. And they both have a long strings of double-digit goals seasons that shows they're quite capable of doing just that. And tonight it was the goal that broke the 1-1 tie in the last 2 minutes of the first and stood up as the game winner when the dust settled a couple hours later in a 4-1 win. But when you got the fourth line contributing in that manner at the good end and giving up next to nothing at the defensive end, you're living the high life.
I love that line. The 3 wise men,
Mm-hmm.
not fast, kind of
Mm-hmm.
old, except for Hamblin,
Mm-hmm.
but really, really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And just we saw it again on that goal. Ryan, uh, he saw Gagne coming in there, so he just flipped it out quick.
Yep.
Smart play.
Yep.
And yeah, they
Wasn't
just
on the
know
stick for long.
it was not at all. It's nice to see them get a goal, get some success. Of course, Gagne really does have high skill still in that
Mm-hmm.
stick. He can make plays, as
Yep.
can Ryan.
As
And
did Ryan in this
yeah,
case.
as did Ryan. So excellent. So Bruce, this was battle of the 2 Connors, and Connor McDavid. Um, I mean, it's not really fair. Connor McDavid's in the prime of his career. Connor Bedard's 18, and Connor Bedard had some good moments in the game, also some iffy ones. He reminds Bob Stauffer compares him to Marcel Dion. He reminds me of like Joe Sakic, I think. smaller player, kind of stocky with a hell of a shot and some real skill, who digs in hard. Well, anyway, those are two pretty good Hall of Fame players to be compared to. McDavid, the Oilers came out really shaky in this game, but McDavid, I think, wasn't going to lose this game. And he made two absolutely fantastic passes on goals in this game. The first one, he just charges down the wing, charges up the ice down the wing, and such a beautiful pass to Nugent Hopkins. He lofts the puck through the air, and Nugent Hopkins makes an equally fine strike of the puck, putting it back across the kind of flow of play back over the goalie's shoulder into the top part of the net. It was just a fantastic skill play by two exceptional players on an exceptional line, I guess. Kind of off the charts in terms of production for an NHL line. The fourth goal was also engineered by McDavid. It wasn't much happening on the early third period power play, but he made a very nice move along the wall, just to get by a player, find some space, and again made a perfect pass to Hyman, who was unbelievably wide open in front of the net, and put it in. I mean, I don't know how a player gets that wide open in front of the net. They just fell asleep. Chicago isn't that good a team, so that might explain some of it, but what a great play. Just high skill play by McDavid. Throughout the game, he was just charging around, bossing the game, making great plays, making nice passes, dominating the game at every turn, every time he was on the ice. He is the league's MVP, and I know like there's early talk about other players, Bruce. By the end of the year, McDavid, having dragged this team from the bottom, near bottom, second, 31st in the NHL, into the playoffs is going to happen. He will be the league MVP. He's going to take over the scoring lead, and he's just the best player. There's no doubt about it, and he showed it again tonight.
Yeah, he was the best player tonight, and he was named the first star of this game, and he's been a regular on the game star sheet after, I think it was 12 or even 13 games at the start of the year where he wasn't named a star once.
Wow.
And then, yeah, and then they changed coaches, and then all of a sudden the real McDavid returned. And I think the change of coaches was a coincidence. I think it was McDavid simply returning to health, and
I agree.
Certainly looking pretty close to 100% these last 3 weeks now, where he's been bossing a lot of games. I think they said 25 points in his 10-game point streak. So that's a nice pace.
That is a nice pace. 2.5. That's what is it? A
200-point season, yeah.
Yeah.
That was Gretzky's sort of standard level, 2.5 points per game. He kept it up for years.
Wow.
Basically 2.5. And he did, of course, post 4 200-point seasons in that time. And but even to do it for, a stretch of games, that's really cooking with gas, 2.5 points per game.
Your bad thing.
And I was just going to add one other thing that you were talking about, the RNH McDavid Hyman line, and Mike Kelly posted stats, 5-on-5 stats in the 7 games. This not including tonight's game when they scored 1 and gave up none. 63-29 in shots, 36-6 in slot shots, 24-2 in rush chances, 90% of expected goals, and 92% of actual goals, 11-4 and 1 against. So now they're 12-4 and 1 against in the last 8 games. This Oilers' first line, 12-1, and basically 2 hours of hockey. So just absolutely convincingly rolling team after team with this unstoppable trio that was it Maddie? Was it you that said they might get consideration for Team Canada as a line?
Wasn't me. I think it must have been Maddie.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
thinking
no,
that.
they definitely, right? Like, why wouldn't you keep that group? Well, depends how old they all are by the time they get a Team Canada
Yeah,
together.
it might be 2050 by the time they ever get around to playing meaningful games again.
Yeah, and how healthy. But no, right now
Oh,
they would be a Team Canada line for sure.
first line,
Yeah, first line.
the way they're
Hyman's
going.
playing so well. Like, man, he's
Oh,
just so good with the puck, serpentining around the ice with the puck. He is an amazing puck carrier, which is something I just never expected from him. But man,
mhm.
he can control the puck in the offensive end. Your bad thing, Bruce.
Yeah, my bad thing is to the voters of the Northern Star Award for Canada's Athlete of the Year, who once again this year overlooked Connor McDavid having the best season of his entire career for a basketball player, and a very, very, very good basketball player, Shea Alexander, who made the NBA All-Star team and finished fourth in scoring, and fifth in some other category or other that they listed in the thing. I mean, to me, the NBA and the NHL are more or less equal leagues at, at equivalent levels, and yet it seems like when a Canadian does well in another sport, they're falling over themselves to vote for him. Connor McDavid has never won the Canadian Male Athlete or Canadian Athlete of the Year award. And come on, guys, he had 153 points last year. He had 64 goals. He not only made the All Star team, same as SGA did. But oh yeah, he also won the Hart Trophy, the Art Ross Trophy, the Rocket Richard Trophy, and the Ted Lindsay Trophy. Four major awards. Had the season of his life, and yet for the eighth season in a row, Canadian reporters and voters chose to overlook men's hockey and find an athlete of the year in some other sport. And hey, SGA had a great year, but I don't think he jumps the queue over Connor McDavid and what he did this year. And I'm a little tired of him being taken for granted. Now, the one big difference between them is SGA helped Canada win a bronze medal at basketball world championships.
Well, there you
And of
go.
course, in the NHL, we don't really do a lot of that kind of stuff anymore. So the chances of, there's no Olympic gold or whatever because we're not doing that kind of stuff anymore. It's
He is a prolific point scorer. You know, Bruce,
yeah, yeah,
I
fifth
have
in the
something to
league,
admit. Until
fifth
you
in the
mentioned
league.
his name tonight,
Hmm.
I had never heard of his. I don't follow the NBA at all.
Hmm.
I
I,
don't.
I I watch highlight packages, and the guy's great. They always show him on highlight reels, but
Yeah,
he is not Connor McDavid. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
I watched the NBA, the last game of the NBA Finals, and I just thought
Hmm.
it didn't look like a very attractive product to me. Kind of chaotic, and I don't know. Maybe. And I used to be a huge NBA fan, but I just have lost track, and I'm not at all interested now to the point where I didn't even know about this player. Anyway, congratulations to him, but I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against that guy at all. I just think it's high time Connor McDavid got his due.
It's
And if
ridiculous. That
he's not
is
going to get it for a 150 point season, leading the league in goals and assists and points.
well, maybe if they get back in the Olympics, they'll win it that year.
And I had no other bad things to really say about this game,
All
so
right.
I'll
Mine's the
vent my spleen on the voters.
there you go. My bad thing is the start of the game. The Oilers came out super sloppy and asleep at the wheel. And of course, 3 minutes and 20 seconds into the game, there's a combination of bad things that happened. And I know Evan Bouchard will get the most blame because he was kind of Johnny on the spot. And you're thinking, why isn't he taking Bedard? Well, in fact, Bouchard's man was the player ahead of him, and he kind of got a little focused on the player ahead of him on the boards, thinking he might get the pass. And Bedard did sneak in behind him. But the reason Bedard had a break is the Cody Ceci had been waiting to change. Chicago had possession of the puck, and I think he needed to make sure that like they passed it back one final time towards the bench side of the boards, and he thought, okay, here's my chance. So he went to change, But just then, Chicago sprung on the attack, and Bedard cut across the ice in behind Bouchard, and because of that line change, Ekholm was a little late into the play, and that allowed the Bedard to break in. It was somewhat Bouchard's fault, but really the other defenseman, Bouchard was coming from that side. So, Bedard was coming from that side, and if Ceci had stayed on the ice, he would have had that player. Probably nothing would have happened. But he changed it off. Ekholm came on, and Ekholm was a little late then getting to the shot, and even then he had a chance to probably get stick on puck.
Beat too.
But he got beat by a great move by Bedard, and it was a fantastic move. I think either before the game or some highlight reel, they'd shown how he scores this kind of goal, where he suddenly moves his hands out and is able to. He's so strong, and his stick is upstairs. He's able then to change the angle of the shot and get it upstairs. He did that exact play on that goal, and it beat Stu Skinner. It is a great shot. It's a dangerous shot, and I'd love to see a Canadian Olympic team with Bedard, Crosby, and McDavid on it. And I hope that we can get a best on best tournament in time for that to happen.
2026 would be the one.
Crosby will have to hang in there. I mean, he's having a pretty good year this year, isn't he? He's still hanging in there. So,
oh yeah, he's still a very good player. Yeah, what Bedard does with his shot, and I've noticed it since he was in junior, and I certainly noticed it tonight, is he's quite comfortable shifting the puck within the what I call the arc of influence of the checker. Inside the guy's stick and shooting it from right inside the guy. And a lot of guys will hold the puck somewhere outside where the other guy can reach with his stick and shoot from there. And the truly great scorers, if they're quick, you got to be super quick to get it in there and get it off your stick. And he showed all of that. And of course, he absolutely sniped the top corner. That was a pretty goal.
I've heard that called the attack triangle by the legendary skills coach Jim Fleming. Mm-hmm. Calls it the attack triangle, and you can stick handle in there and sometimes get a shot off if you're Connor Bedard. I've never actually been able to do that myself. It's all theoretical for me, but in my
Gretzky used to thread the puck in and out of there and pass from in there, and more or less do what he liked from in there. But the elite shooters are happy if they can sort of make one move with the puck into that space and just snap it off. And we saw it, an 18-year-old expert showing off his skill on that.
Yeah. Today. Yeah, McDavid often is in that attack triangle doing his stick handling and shooting. Absolutely. Like he lives there, right? That's what separates him from a lot of players.
Mm-hmm. I'm quicker than you.
Is he ever? He's just his level of skill it's just a joy to watch Connor McDavid's level of skill game in, game out. Bruce, what is your number?
Yeah, I'm going to go with number 7, and that is, believe it or not, the number of periods in a row that Oilers have won. Every single one of them by 1 goal. They were tied after a bad second period against Minnesota. They were tied 3-3, and they pulled that off by scoring the lone goal of the third period. Then on Sunday they came out and they outscored New Jersey 1-0 in each of the first and second periods and 2-1 in the third to win 4-1. And then tonight they flipped that around. They won 2-1 in the first and then 1-0 in the second and the third. And just 7 periods in a row where they managed to put one more on the board than the other guys. And that's a pretty long streak of that kind. I mean, I don't track it exactly. I just know enough to know that it's pretty hard to win every period for an extended length of time. And we're seeing it in the results, convincing wins, 4-1, 4-1. I mean, they held their opponents to 1 goal in 3 of the last 4 wins here since a little break that they had at the beginning of December. They've only given in 6 goals, and 3 of them came in that one bad period against Minnesota, and only 3 others in the other 11 periods.
Wow. Bruce, my number is 1. The Oilers are now 1 point out of the final wild card spot in the West, held by Arizona. Arizona has 28 points in 28 games. The Oilers have 27 points in 26 games. And I think when the Oilers got rolling under Knobloch, maybe after the first win under Knobloch, you and I talked about how it might take, if things went well, and we were still fairly optimistic or somewhat optimistic. We were somewhat optimistic at that point that they would go well. We thought it would take about 2.5 months, I think, was the number that I raised, if I recall correctly, that it would take 2.5 months for them to battle back into a playoff spot. Well, they're not there yet, but it's been about a month, eh? It was November 12th that Woodcroft was fired, and it's December 12th today. So it's a month, and they're almost there. This is just as we were talking previously about the I was saying how this run that Knobloch is on is it's such a high level that the Oilers are playing at. So I did go back and look at the smaller segments of games under Woodcroft during his 2 seasons, and there was 3 other 12-game, 13-game segments where the Oilers were this good under Woodcroft. So it's not the highest ever level right now under Knobloch, but this team has reached the high that the Oilers were right at the end of last season for the last, I think, 13 games.
14-0-1 they ended last year.
Yeah. And then there was a period about games 42 to 53, something like that, last season, when they also had a really great run. Now, they didn't win as many games because the goaltending wasn't as solid, but they were a dominant team when it came to flow of play and goals and grade A shots and all that stuff. And then towards the end, just before the end of the previous Woodcroft's first season with the team, they also had a run that long where they were this good. So, Knobloch is getting a lot of praise, rightfully. There's still a lot of people, though, who hold out that Woodcroft did an excellent job with the Oilers, and this team could have easily turned around under him. I guess my point is we will never know the answer to that question, but we do know that Woodcroft did at various times have this team playing at an extremely high level, and Knobloch has accomplished the same thing. Just when the team really needed it. If we're fair to Woodcroft, we will mention that all kinds of players were getting healthier and healthier.
McDavid, we mentioned already, but Ekholm is a clear example.
Kulak and McLeod and and Kane, all of them getting healthier. And we'll deal with another one in the Conundrum in a second. But good for Knobloch, but good for Jay Woodcroft. He did an exceptional job with the Edmonton Oilers, and I think it's I think everyone recognizes that. Actually, I'm not arguing it. So I'm not really. Very few people attack him strongly.
The percentages just killed him. Like both their shooting and save percentages were terrible. Anybody who watched the games would say, I mean, there was just so much crap happening against the Oilers. They got Philip Broberg stepping on a stick, on the neutral zone, stuff like that. That just like, what's going on? And it just seemed to happen game after game. It wasn't just an odd game here or there. And eventually, I guess the dam broke. And certainly you can point at things that have improved under Chris Knobloch. I mean, the penalty kill is just night and day.
Yes.
Way better. But the penalty kill had, pretty good results last year, especially when you consider net results, because they scored a lot of shorthanded goals. And their net goal differential was pretty good. But anyways, I'm actually going to have a comparison of these 2 coaches because they now each had 13 games. So it's a good time to sort of have a look and see what's happening different. Obviously, Oilers are winning way more games, but it's, in terms of the underlying numbers, in terms of producing, winning the shots battle and so on, it's not so different. They were out shooting teams, but they were shooting from behind. They were playing from behind.
Yeah, they weren't getting as many 5-alarm chances. They were the opposition had more 5-alarm chances than the Oilers did under Woodcroft Bruce. Now the Oilers are getting significantly more than the opposition. So the underlying numbers, maybe in shots or shots at net. Under
Mhm.
Woodcroft might have been okay, but on the most dangerous
Right.
chances, they weren't that great. They were okay-ish,
Mhm.
but now they're excellent. Now they're out of this
Yeah,
world.
well, one of the things that underlying numbers sometimes do is lying. Uh, and
Yes.
I mean, there are statistics, right?
Yes.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics. And in some cases, those underlying numbers made Woodcroft's Oilers of this year look better than they were.
Yeah.
But the scores of games made them look way worse than they were. And the
Yes, that's fair.
truth lies somewhere in the middle, as they like to say. So
Yeah.
you say Edmonton's 1 point back, and I'm looking at the percentage column, David, and they're actually in the second wild card spot, 13, 12, and 1 for 27 points and a 519 percentage. And Arizona in third at 12, 13, and 2. Sorry, 13, 13, and 2 for a 500 points percentage. So they played two more games and have one more point. And then St. Louis 13, 14, and 1, 482. And here's the funny thing: when the Oilers came back from their little break there 7 days ago,
Hmm.
St. Louis and Arizona were both on a roll, and they built up this suddenly lead, and we're looking
Yeah.
at the standing, thinking that's going to take a while. And since then, both Arizona and St. Louis have gone 0-4 and 0.
Ooh,
Lost four
nice.
straight games, and Edmonton's gone 4-0 and 0 and made up 8 points on both teams that they were chasing.
Sweet.
And so they caught both of those teams, and now only Nashville, that's sort of on a bit of a heater as well, is still a little bit in front of them. But the Oilers are I would say in the second wild card position when you include games in hand. Uh, what's going to be a little harder is overtaking the leaders in their division. Because if you look at the last 10 games in the West, Edmonton's got the best record, 8-2 and 0.
Hmm.
Second best are the Kings at 7-2 and 1, and the Golden Knights at 6-1 and 3. So the Oilers have gained just 1 point on each of those teams, and they are 9 behind LA and a whopping 18 behind Vegas, albeit with 4 games in hand. But they've got if those teams keep winning, it's going to be hard to catch them, right? It's a lot easier to catch
Yeah.
teams that are on 4-game losing streaks. Which, by the way, St. Louis apparently fired Craig Berube after the game tonight. So there's a man with a local connection and one of the great statues I've ever seen in his little town of Calahoo, Alberta, population 70 something people, not 70,000, 70. 85, maybe it's 85, Calahoo. Anyway, he was won the Stanley Cup from if you're ever in Calahoo, which is out a little northwest of Edmonton, you're driving by it on Highway 37, dip into, take the turn off and drive in about half a kilometer. And right in downtown before the community center ice rink, there's this fantastic wood carving of Craig Berube in a full headdress holding the Stanley Cup over his head. It's absolutely fantastic.
I'll have to go see that. I've been to Calahoo. I missed that.
Well, it's kind of new, unless you were there
Oh,
since
that's true. No, I
2019.
think I was there in minor hockey for a
Yeah,
practice or game or
right.
something.
If you were there since 2019, they put it up sometime in sort of the year or so after Berube won the cup. Anyways, he got let go tonight, and so there's another good coach on the market. I suspect he'll land on his feet.
Oh yeah,
But
you win a Stanley Cup, you get another chance.
mhm. So
Bruce, tonight's conundrum, we'll deal with Connor Brown.
yeah,
Okay, let's just start with a prediction. 30 or 40 games from now, what do
hmm
you think most fans will be saying about Connor Brown's play in that moment? What's your best guess?
well, they'll likely be complaining. Um, I'm going to go way out on a limb with that one, unless he suddenly starts lighting the lamp with regularity.
Uh-huh.
He's one of these. I mean, it's easy to get frustrated, especially with the contract and the bonus that has yet to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like if you include the bonus, he's like a 4 times as expensive version of Matthias Janmark, doing more or less the same things, which a lot of them are good things. He's a really fine penalty killer.
Yeah.
And he was disrupting the penalty kill again tonight. He disrupted the penalty kill the last game. Was it Jack Hughes? He took him out in the center zone, two rushes in a row where Jack Hughes couldn't get through center because Connor Brown took the puck off him. And and tonight he did it, but when they came down and got his chances, he kept missing the net.
Did he ever?
Gotta hit the net, man. And I'm sure he's getting frustrated, and I mean, I'm sure he's beyond getting. He's gotten frustrated, and he's really pressing when he does get those chances. And he keeps hitting posts. He had a goal disallowed. Eventually it's going to come, but I'm not saying it's going to come and he's going to start scoring like Zach Hyman. But I do think in 30 or 40 games, we'll be talking about a guy with, say, 8 goals as opposed to 0 like he still has now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have any strong memory of him before he missed a year due to injury,
Right.
A leg injury. Was it a knee injury?
Yes, ACL.
Okay. I don't have any memory of him. I don't know how strong a skater he was, how fast he was. He doesn't strike me as particularly slow, but he doesn't look particularly fast right now. Now, the skating could still come. And I guess, when the season's on, I tend to put the contracts out of my mind, honestly.
Yes,
in terms of,
that's the way to do it.
Rating and ranking the players is not top of mind for me. So I don't really, I'm not thinking about, I think I know what it means. I know what it means for the cap next year, but whatever. I just think I still have a lot of patience for this player. Yep. I don't think he hurts the team. He's kind of like Adam Ernie, but a little bit better as a checker. Adam Ernie didn't get much done. Brown is a better checker, and he is good on the PK. So he does help you win in that regard. That's a big regard. That's a big matter, PK. So that's a feather in his cap. At even strength, they have this conundrum with Draisaitl and Kane and him. The line doesn't work. It's clear it doesn't work. You can't break up the top line, though. You cannot break up that top line. They're winning. There's no reason to break it up. It's the best line in the NHL. It's one of the best lines in hockey. Only Dave Tippett heading into the playoffs would break up that line. Which is what he did one year, break up the best line in hockey heading into the playoffs because he needed to.
8 minutes in the first period, he put McDavid and Draisaitl together and just stuck with them.
Oh, God, I hated that move. Anyway, was that the 2020, the COVID playoffs? Yeah, that was this.
Well,
that
was it was kind of both of them under Dave Tippett. Did the same thing against the Jets the next year.
Yeah. Anyway, you don't break up the top line. Even if Leon Draisaitl's unhappy, you don't break up the top line. You say, Leon, figure it out. You're a great player. You figure it out. And I liked actually what the coach did in the second period, putting Foegele and Janmark with Draisaitl. Those two players are pretty good players. I think they're underrated players. They have a lot of critics here in Edmonton, but I think they're both fine two-way hockey players. They don't have great hands, but they're fast and they're aggressive and they can make plays. And I think might be actually fairly decent wingers for Draisaitl in the short term. I don't mind, like if they mixed and matched, if they put Kane with one of those two and Draisaitl, I think that might be the best ticket. Brown needs to be on a checking line. I think it's too much pressure to be in the top six to make plays because he's struggling to make plays. He's having trouble with his confidence. He's pressing. He's giving away the puck. He looks nervous. Just put him in a checking role and tell him to check the snot out of the opposing team. Ryan McLeod is the center, maybe Foegele on the wing, on the other wing. And you can have I think there'd be a decent checking line. I don't see Brown being any kind of problem in that area. And then Janmark and Kane and Draisaitl might, they'll have fewer defensive problems with Janmark because he's the best defensive winger at even strength on the Oilers. And they'll get a bit more on the attack because Janmark plays well on the attack. He can make plays now and then. So that would be my solution for the Brown conundrum in the short term, and in the long term, I
Like
do
they
think
did tonight.
yeah, like they did tonight. Good for the coach. That was Coach K got that right. And I think in the long term, I still hold. And what crosses my mind when I see all these negative and nasty comments about Brown, I just think people when the playoffs come, and he's a good player and he helps you win games. I don't think people will remember their nasty comments, but I just think maybe hold back on that kind of stuff.
It's not helping.
It's until the season's well, like what's the point? He's trying his heart out. You can see that he's trying, he's hustling. He's coming back from a major injury. Takes time. It's going to take time. It is taking time. I understand everybody's frustrated and a lot of people hate Ken Holland for that signing. Whatever. Like, just know that this player, there's a really good chance this player is going to be good. And all you were missing was patience.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's my final thought on the matter. I'm going to try to have that patience anyway.
Yeah, well, he won the gold medal for Canada at the World Championships in 2021. It's not very long ago. He led the team, and in fact, he led the tournament in most points with 16 points, including 14 assists in 10 games. Playing on a very good line with Adam Henrique and Andrew Mangiapane. And that was a Canadian team that lost the first 3 games, and then they rolled through and they won 7 straight games in dramatic fashion to win. And he was fantastic in that tournament. I watched almost all of those games, and he was phenomenal. And that line was just on fire. Now it's one little tournament, but enough on display in that one little tournament. You can't just say, well, the guy's just a plumber. I mean, he's not. He's struggling. And my only concern is I keep getting flashbacks of Andrej Sekera pre and post ACL.
Yeah,
and how that
took a while.
It completely changed him. And he came back, he was diminished.
Yeah.
And of course, he already had the contract, whereas in this case, Holland gave him the contract after he got the injury. So, it's going to be scrutinized, but it's a little bit early to be casting final judgment. Because this guy, I'm with you. I think he will help the team. I'm pretty sure he won't be $4 million worth of help, but he's here. And, trading him just for the sake of getting rid of him, like some are suggesting, even though they would still have to eat that bonus, makes no sense at all. He's going to help the team. He's a worker bee, and and say penalty killing tonight. Top 2 penalty killers for ice time for the Oilers: Janmark and Brown, which is a pairing, and they've been very, very good.
So he only has 1 assist in 20 games. So like the people who are criticizing him have, obviously he's not performing at any kind of reasonable level for an NHL forward, especially getting excellent minutes like he's been getting. I mean, we all know that. This is not unknown to us. But we'll just see. Like, and you're right, Bruce. It could be 20 games from now. It's just apparent he's never going to be the same skater. Or maybe never, or maybe it's going to take even a year for him to get it back together. Sekera got better when he went to Dallas, I believe. Like I think he improved a bit, but maybe you're right. Maybe this is like Sekera, and he's just never going to get that burst that he had and that he needed, that every player needs. I mean, so that's a possibility, but we'll know more as the season unfolds. It sometimes takes a while, and not to forget, he missed games this year because of injury. So not only was he hurt last year, he had some kind of injury this year. And he's still working his way back from that injury, whatever.
Yeah, I think he was better before the injury. And I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm looking at the first 13 versus the second 13. I suspect he might be one Oiler player who actually shows a little worse in the second set of games because he got hurt kind of in between. And since he came back, he's had maybe a little bit more struggles.
I think so. And I think our numbers show that with contributions to grade A shots. he's struggling to have a hand in them. Like sometimes he wins a battle that'll lead to a grade A shot, but in terms of like a pass or a shot himself, they're few and far between. So, well, Bruce, I think we've covered the territory. Next game is Friday?
2 nights from now, Thursday against Tampa Bay Lightning.
Thursday. Oh, Tampa Bay.
Yep, and then Florida Panthers following up on Saturday.
All right.
So we got the same two Florida teams that extinguished multiple Oilers leads in consecutive games and came back to win them in regulation. So Oilers have got a little paying back to do yet, and might as well start with the Bolts.
All right. I like the cut of your jib there, Bruce. All right. Thanks for
like
talking.
8 wins in a row, and I do have to correct myself for a hideous mistake I made last podcast. The Oilers had a 9-game winning streak last year at the end of the year. They won 5 straight. They lost 1 in overtime, and then they won 9 straight, which tied their all-time club record. So I was sort of reaching for when was the last time they had a winning streak this long. It wasn't that long ago. In fact, it was in calendar year 2023, Bruce. So I'm much better on the stuff from like 1968, 1983 and stuff like that. It's funny how the memory works. Anyways, 8 in a row and a chance to tie that club record on Thursday night.
Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.